Today, I would like to really start things off with some very basic concepts and ideas. Um, we're going to be doing two things today. We are going to be looking at the indicators of the methods package. So if you guys are unfamiliar with the methods package, it is on the NinjaTrader platform. Okay. Let me bring up the website here. Under product comparison, you'll see the methods package, and really why I love the methods package so much. Hopefully I can bring today a real in-depth study of why the methods package is so amazing. Okay? So, with that being said, let's start off with the first little bit. As you guys know, we have the training library, workspaces, templates, and let's look at the APA time tool and the APA zones tool here real quick. So, with the APA zones tool, we just have APA zones sitting on this chart. I'm not looking at the multiple time frame right now, but with the APA zones tool, what we have is a better understanding of support and resistance, supply and demand, and how it looks in our market. Okay, and we need to take it as such. I really like the idea of taking all of these levels in confirmation. Okay, so I don't like the idea of standing in front of a bus. I don't like the idea of hoping or wishing that price will respect one of these levels. I want to wait for confirmation of it. Okay, so inside the actual zone settings, we have a minimum zone width, and this is actually a recommendation by one of our users. And basically, this is for a really small time frame or a small tick chart, so that if price doesn't move during like the Globex session or something like that, all zones have to be at least a certain number of ticks big. Now, I know that may seem funny, and why don't I have one where it's the maximum zone width? And I think that's a fair question. The reason why I don't have it set to a maximum zone width is, even though it'd be nice for us to set our stops and targets and blah 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 to the correct zone that meets our risk reward ratios for however much we're going to risk reward, the market's not going to be that nice to you. Okay, just straight up, it's not. And I think it's unrealistic to say that you only want to see zones that meet your risk reward requirements, or your risk requirements if you're looking to play that confirmation off of a zone. Okay, that is going to do more harm than good, because it's going to reduce the number of zones on your chart so much that you will potentially never be able to make a trade. And number two, when you do find one of those levels that meets your maximum zone width, it's very possible that that zone could be run through quite easily, or maybe you won't be fast enough to catch it. Okay, so I think the safer way to go is as such. Okay, so that was just a little bit of a behind the scenes and behind the logic of, every single one of these zones is dynamic to what the market is telling us, and I think you've got to be. If you're waiting for the market to come inside your little box and trade inside your little box, I think that's unrealistic, because well, first off, I don't believe there's a box. so, so we want to be real world and be outside the box all the way. So anyway, getting on with the settings here, we have the alert settings. In both NinjaTrader and TradeStation, you do have the alerts. I love the NinjaTrader version because that's where the methods package is at. We don't have the methods package for any of the other platforms right now. I am looking at putting it on Sierra Charts, but unfortunately I don't think it'll come to TradeStation anytime soon, just because of the way that TradeStation does things in the back end. Okay. Then after the alert section, we have the bounce count colors, and you can totally change these settings if you want to. I put these colors the way that they are for people that are colorblind. Because there's a value shift, colorblind people can see them. And if you don't believe me, you can ask Jeff, because he has some color blindness, and this was no problem for him. But that goes beyond the realm of what we're really talking about today. Then we have plots. These are just NinjaTrader plots, so don't really worry about those so much. They aren't in TradeStation at all because it's a different backend. Price labels, these are for us to change how the numbers actually plot, as well as the font size. So you can make the font size bigger or smaller. We also have this in the TradeStation and Sierra Charts version. And then we have visual zone settings, and this is basically just all the menu items. That's what the visual zone settings do. So looking at the visual zone settings on here, we can show our zones, we can hide our zones, which I think this is really important because the APA community and the APA education, the mentorship stuff, all of that is about understanding what are the bars telling us. The zones are even secondary. The software is secondary to what these bars represent and what they mean. Okay? So I think being able to have clean charts and for it to be nice and clean like this so that we can easily see what the bars are doing, that is really, really important to me. Okay, so that's kind of how that works. Obviously, you can check and uncheck any of these. Okay, and show and hide the zones, as many of you know. We can also show the dead zones, and the only reason why I put this on here was because a lot of times we do see a flip-flop. Okay, we see support come in here becoming resistance. All right, and you can see that flip-flop happen. All right, so that's the reason why that's there. You can see resistance over here becoming support, or excuse me. Actually, this is resistance becoming resistance and reforming. But anyway, that kind of flip-flop stuff, zones reforming themselves over time. That's why the dead zones are there, and that's what they're made to do. Then we have this zone type thing, and I really recommend that everybody just keeps it on intelligent. You can try the other ones if you like. It's up to you. But I love the intelligent setting, so I'm not going to get into too deep into that. But conservative zones are obviously going to be smaller zones. Liberal zones are going to be the biggest zones that you can possibly plot. APA3 has its own variation of software. It's slightly different than what the intelligent is, but it's really stinking close. Then we have the show fibs tool. If you want to show fibs, you can show the most recent plot from high to low kind of deal. You can move it around. In order to take off the fibs, you have to click that button. Otherwise, if you just try to delete the fib, it will remove the indicator as well. It's just one of those things. Then we have show current zones, which obviously I use all the time. Now, this is really cool in my mind, but in a previous update, we did have shows only the current zones available, but every time you went to reload the charts and you had this selected, it would take a long time. So if I reload my chart now, it's going to be pretty quick, okay? But the only drawback is, and we had a blank chart come up here, so if that happens, I just switch over, okay? And then it should show the zones again and the bars. Bars being important, we always want to see the bars. So if that ever happens to you, this is what you do. And now we have 15-minute zones. But notice that all the zones show up here again, and that was just simply because if we only showed the most recent zones, it would take forever to process just the graphical display of the zones as it was calculating all the historical data points and creating and destruction of all of those zones. Okay, so whenever you hit reload on your charts, it will always pop up all the levels, and you have to hit show current zones only again. Just FYI, and that's why we have the drop-down panel too. So that's a little bit about the zones indicator. Let's get into the APA-Time tool. Now, the APA-Time tool mixed with the zones creates a grid pattern for us. Okay, so that is what it does. All right, and basically, sorry, I'm trying to take off all my drawn objects here. Okay, basically we're creating a grid pattern, and the idea and the hope is that it will simplify our trading. Okay, it simplifies the trading in the following ways. Okay, it only allows us, if you just trade when your background is painted gray or green during the first 15 minutes, it allows us to only look at the market and really analyze the market during those periods of time. Okay, now this is helpful in the sense that your brain is amazing. You're a really intelligent person, but the problem is as we look at the charts, the longer and longer we look at the charts, the more everything and the more our brain reasons any particular bar movement could look good to us. Okay, and in a sense, because we are sitting down at a computer, we're sitting down at a tool, we think that we need to use that tool. And by waiting at a chart, or waiting and sitting on your chair and not doing anything, subconsciously, I really think we start to feel like we're not doing anything. We're supposed to be making money. Let's make money. Let's sit down, get her done, and do our thing. Well, that's all well and good, but as we sit down and do that, I think subconsciously our brain starts, okay, well, where can I possibly trade next? Where can I possibly trade next? And before you know it, you throw out your rules, and everything matches your rules because you're sitting down at a tool to make money, and you haven't placed a trade for the past hour. And that's hard to do, You're like, well, it's got to be here. And so your brain starts to make everything meet your rules. Or maybe you're like, oh, well, I know the market's going down, so I'm just going to jump on board. Who knows? Your brain can use, well, at least my brain has gone in one of those two directions. So that's what the APA-Time tool does for me. I don't even care to look at the charts when it's not at these times of day. It just doesn't make sense, okay? Because I'm trying to bring simplicity to the trading, not be overcomplicated. So that's how the APA-Time tool is supposed to work. And if we look at the settings, here's the interesting part of it. You will see a time zone setting at the very top. This is really the most important setting there is to the whole indicator. And basically, this determines how many minutes before and after the top of the hour that we are going to plot this gray zone, time zone. Okay, so I have it set to 7. All right, and the reason that I have it set to 7 is that is the extreme amount of time that I really want to be looking at it. And it also helps me do something else, because I know you guys have attended the pub before in the past. We are actually bringing the pub back to a degree. And what this time zone setting does is it allows me to say, okay, we're entering one of these time zones where we're looking for a reversal or a retracement. And when it first starts plotting, I know that I need to do my analysis as to what I'm thinking is going to happen during that time zone, whether we're going to be ranging or we're going to be buying or selling that pullback, or it's going to reverse. That's what helps me get into that state of mind. And then I can go into really just 5 minutes before and after to be looking for that particular setup to happen. Okay? So, and I only need to focus during that period of time, whereas when I'm not during that period of time, I can do whatever in the world. If you need to step away, need to take a break, please do. It just provides a lot of structure. And I'm all about the statistical analysis, and you have to build structure in order to do that, in order to be very statistical. So anyway, that's the ideas behind the tool. You can also have a start time and an end time. Yes, it is the tic-tac-toe methodology, and it's been working well for me for quite some time. You have the start time and the end time. The start time is when your market opens, whether you're trading the US, the UK, or Asian session. End time is when you want it to end. It will only plot out 8 hours worth of time zones, or maybe it's 10 hours, 8 or 10 hours, because that's usually how long a normal session lasts. It's like 8 hours. So that's how many time zones it usually plots out there. Just did that to save processing type of thing. And then we have the trade times. So we can turn on or off the top or the bottom of the hour, as well as we could turn on or off the displaying the first 15-minute green stripe right there. And we could also change the green stripe or any of these colors to whatever color you want them to be. Okay, so if you want to change it to all girly colors and make them all pink and purple and, I don't know, chartreuse, then go for it. But that's the settings, and that's the important things in this tool. Okay, and that really covers the elements package. All right. So getting into the generations package, and really we're just trying to cover the methods, but I'm just going through all these. Getting into the generation stuff, we are going to see the epoch Globex being plotted on our charts. Globex, if for all those out there that don't know what Globex is during the normal session, like let's say you're trading the US session, we have a high and a low of the US session, okay? So when we're not during the US session, and because we have 24-hour markets, the market still moves. So what I like to see is what was the high and the low during the non-US session time, okay? And that's exactly what this indicator does, is it shows us where the high and the low of the non-US session time is. So your start time and your end time are very important. Your start time is actually going to be when your market closes, and your end time is going to be when your market opens. So it's flip-flop from what you normally might be saying, and if you click on it, you can actually see what that does, okay? Which is a wonderful thing about NinjaTrader, is it gives you readouts of what all your indicator setting says if the programmer allows there to be a description, which I don't see any reason why not to, okay? But again, that's just the way that I think. So we also have some settings. We can plot the Globex as a line or a plot, okay? A plot is anything that is like a normal moving average that we normally plot on our screen. A line is a line that is straight. So that's the difference there. And then we can also choose to show and hide it, which is why we can have this little button up there. It shows or hides the Globex for us. All right. So moving on our indicator list, we have the APA background. I really like this just because I'm a visual guy, and I think the background is cool. Yes, I did design it and make it myself, so maybe that's why. But when you apply this to your chart, it makes the background, it puts the little APA in the background and also puts it over there. And if you want to, if you have another image that you would like to superimpose on the background of your charts, then you can definitely do that. You just have to specify what the file name is right there. Okay, so you have to copy and paste that from your file manager, bring it over, and it'll put it into place. Which, okay, it's just purely for graphical orientation and what you might like there. I just thought it was really cool, so that's why I made it. And yeah, so that's pretty much a little bit about the APA background. Moving right along, the APA multiple time frame SMAs and EMAs. If you're big into SMAs and EMAs, well, some of the other members have been. So you can superimpose 3 different SMAs or EMAs on your chart from multiple time frames. So you could grab it from 377 chick charts, maybe a 12-minute charts, or maybe an hourly charts. All of those you could superimpose on this one chart at one time with those 2 indicators. Okay, so that is all that does there, and you'll see the MTFs line up for the first 3 settings, do the first SMA or EMA, and then period time and the SMA period. So you can bring in a 50 or a 20 or a 200 period moving average from that multiple time frame. So I know there are several people that like that indicator. What is SMA versus EMA again? SMA stands for simple moving average, so it calculates the average price of the last 20 bars or 50 bars, whatever your SMA or EMA period is set to, whereas the EMA stands for exponential moving average. So there's a little extra exponential calculation put into that one that makes it vary from the simple moving average. That's what they stand for. Okay, moving right along. We are down to the APAZones Trender. And the Trender is an amazing tool. I absolutely love it. It seems to, well, it's just a really cool tool. I like to put it on my 15-minute chart because I'm a day trader. But if I was like a swing trader, I'd put it on like a daily chart. Okay. And what this allows me to do is to say, hey, price is moving in this trend direction. Do I really want to be taking a counter trend right now? All right. That's what allows me to do. All right. And it helps me get an overall direction of the trend. All right. Because, well, they all say the trend is your friend, but with so many different indicators out there that try to do the trend follow thing, it comes to a pullback and they flip over, and now you're looking short, but really it's just a very small pullback, but the pullback gets them short, and now you're going all over the place and you have no idea what way's up, and that just seemed unfair and unreasonable to me. So this tool was really an attempt and a study to make a tool that would be able to keep you in a trend even though you get major pullbacks. Okay, so I'm not going to get too deep into the sugar and spice, but there's volume built into it, there's momentum built into it, there's price action like you would think, me reading the bars type of thing, and that type of equation built into it. There's consolidation piece that's extra built into this, which actually directly ties into the momentum equation that I used. So there's a lot of things going on here with the trender. But needless to say, it's supposed to keep us in the direction of the trend even when we get the major pullback. Okay, so the major pullback doesn't throw us out, and we can keep sight of what is really going on. Okay, so I hope that helps a little bit. Now we're going to get into the settings. With the trender, you can color your background, which I like to do a lot because, hey, the background is painted green. If I'm taking a short, it's got to be a counter trend trade, you know, or maybe I don't take that counter trend trade because, you know, maybe I'm selling right there into support, you know. So I think it's very, very important for us to be able to gain that kind of context and for it to be very visual. Okay. All right, and then we have the, this is the opacity setting for if you decide to paint the bars. So if you're not painting the bars, don't worry about it. So let me turn it on real quick just so that you can see it. So if you paint the bars will be green or a lighter green. Okay, so that's kind of how that works. I don't really like painting the bars that much. It just, I don't know, maybe you might like to paint the bars but not have the background painted, and that's fine too, you know, to each his own. And then you have the period of the moving average, and that's all well and good. I usually just keep it at 50. Then we have NinjaTrader settings. It's all miscellaneous and plot settings. You can change the plot color if you want to for the rising and falling. I do recommend that you change how thick the trender plots, because it might be set to 1, so knock it up to 2 or 3 so it's just a visible line for you. And that's pretty much all the settings as far as the trender goes. You can also then build on to that and actually grab the trender from a multiple time frame, which I think is pretty cool. I don't see that right now, but it should be on there. So the trender MTF should be on your charts as well. And again, it works just like the SMAs or the EMAs. You just decide what thing to pull it from, and there you go. Then we also have the paint bar system. Now, this is kind of a legacy indicator, if you will. Here's the trend following. It was my first attempt at building a system that was trend following. Okay. And keeps us in the direction of the trend. All right. This one does paint the bars. It kind of has a stop level that you could possibly use. There's also a really light green one that happens right there too, as price is going up and the bars are being painted green. What can I say other than I opted out of this in the light of the trender? So, but if you like it, you can use it. I would compare the two and see which one you like better. Okay. We also have this APA volume. APA volume is kind of a cool tool. It allows you to specify a certain level of volume. So when the candles are bigger than, let's say, 5,000 volume in a candle, it will plot it blue. Okay? So let's see if we have any blue bars here. Oh, we had one blue bar right there. Okay, so, and it showed us what the volume was. It was 7,000 volume on that little inside bar. Okay, and then we see price expanding to the downside. So you can see these little things pop up there with little blue bars. There's 7,200. And the idea is that it would really, if you have a volume subgraph, you could see what the average volume of the bars are. So if we put volume down here at the bottom, we could see what the average volume is, and then we basically can put a filter so that, you know, whenever it's above higher than average volume, we know about it. Okay, so that's really all that it's looking to do. It's really that easy. Okay. The other thing that you can do with it too is, and I like to do this, is show bar width. I call this the Fat Albert indicator because it makes your bars fat or small based upon relative volume. Okay, so during the Globex session, you can see how thin the bars are. Then when the market actually starts during the normal US session, you can see the bars get thicker and thicker and thicker, and you can see like turnaround volume come in, you know, and it kind of coincides with this volume down here. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and if that helps you, then that is absolutely awesome. For me, I haven't found it personally helpful, but when I was designing it, I thought, man, this should be awesome, because instead of having to look down at a subgraph, I can see volume on the bars in real time just based on how thick they are. That's really cool, you know? So that's the idea behind it, how it was made. You can show bar width. You can show the volume being printed on the bars, which is both set to true. You can show the volume text, so it'll say high volume, like HV on high volume bars, that kind of thing. So there should be a little HV right beside that that deal down there that says high volume. That's all that extra text button does. And then pretty much all these others are just NinjaTrader settings, so it's really not that much. And that's kind of how the indicator works. Moving right along, and if you want to, you can also use this to confirm the zone. So if you see high volume come in to a zone that you're watching, then you can say, well, this is reversal volume, or maybe it's not reversal volume for you, you know. So moving down the list here, let's get into the APA methods. Now, the APA methods, what this does is we've seen the zones and the time zones put together, but now we need a way to like confirm when everything's lining up together, and that's what the APA methods does, is it takes the time zones and the price zones and puts them together and puts that filter together, okay? So that when price action confirms that price is moving out of the zone, it'll plot a little diamond up there, and we can kind of turn on and off all three of those filters together, all in one indicator, and that's why it's really, really cool. So if I only wanted to see the diamonds happen during the certain times of day, I can set that to true, filter support and resistance. So highlight support and resistance at the top and the bottom of the hour only. So I hit apply, and then we will only see the diamonds during the times of day and not during the other times of day. Okay, so that's what that does. And it looks like I need to hit a quick reload, so just flip that up to 2 minutes and then back down to 1. And everything should be hunky-dory. Okay, so now we can only see the diamonds during the top and bottom of the hour. All right, which is really what I like to do. You know, that's my personal trading style, and that's why I think it's absolutely awesome. Because if I have an idea of context of trend and a context of where is high and low, pulling from my bigger time frame, I use the APA methods to jump into the trade. Okay, so maybe when we were down here doing this like little double bottom thing, it gave us a nice signal at the time of day to jump into the long and to do a trend follow to the long, as we had defined the trend as up on this particular chart. Now, yes, there was a huge you did spend several hours coming down off of this level, so the counter trend trade did open up for that type of position, but it was an overall long idea in the market. So the counter trend did work out over here, which is, well, it doesn't matter. And then we see the price reversing off of the bigger time frame zone over here on our 15-minute chart. Just like so. Okay? So if we know that this is support or demand, we can be looking for that as a potential target up there, right? And then we just come into the smaller time frames until we find our entry point, which this is just happens to be a really wonderful one. Okay? And we can see the price coming up here, and as it gets consolidated, is this area of consolidation here at an important area for us per se in our bigger time frame? Well, no, it's not. It's in between two levels. Well, why are you trading there then? Or if you're trading there, are you taking it in the direction of the overall trend? You know, those are the type of things that I ask myself. If the trend is up, I want to buy at support, sell at resistance, right? So for me, it completes the system, and this is why. Okay, and I do like my charts to be simple and clean, so I only show the most recent levels on here just so that I can be trading off of support and resistance right here. So it just makes it a wonderful correlation. So I hope that helps and gives you a little bit understanding of why these dots are appearing here, because we're actually seeing price action confirm the zones at these times of day in such a way. So if we have a little red dot plotting up here, what does that mean? Well, it means that this is a really counter trend trade. Do you want to take a counter trend trade right here? Well, I don't know. What is your context to take a counter trend trade right there? If I look at my bigger chart, I don't really see that so much. So, but that's how I see it. And again, I recommend once you have determined context, the APA methods will be a wonderful way to jump into a trend follow trade. You know, and that's really what we're trying to do. I'm trying to buy and sell the major pullbacks. Buy and sell pullbacks. That's it. That's my whole trading strategy right there in just a couple of words. So I hope this has been helpful. I'm going to get a little bit deeper now into the actual price action of the market and how we look at it at like these times of day. Okay, so I want to make sure that this makes sense to people. So we're going to turn off the zones right now, and we're going to look at the bars. And I know this might be scary for some people, not to have anything on your chart and just to be reading price action. But this is where I had to start, you know. This was really where I had to go if I was going to stay in this business several years ago. If these bars don't mean anything to you, then, well, how in the world do you expect to be a profitable trader? Because that's all my broker was giving me. All the indicators seemed like that was a cheap imitation by the trading platform, you know. So what are the bars telling me? How are the markets moving, and why are the markets moving the way that they are? Well, we're going to try to simplify some things for you, okay? And really what I want to talk about is this. Understanding these two ideas is really what Apizones is built on. That's it. And actually understanding these two concepts, they've opened up new realms to me that I never even thought were possible. But hopefully this will begin to make sense as to how this works. All right. So if the market is consolidating, we're looking for expansion, right? Well, I'm sorry. When we see the market consolidating, like we have all of this consolidation up here, we're looking to see price expand out of it. All right. Now, the markets are really cool. I think the institutions are awesome because they can drive price really, really well. And if you ever go into a very, very small time frame or a small tick chart or something like that, you will see the systematic algos working in such amazing harmony to drive around price. It's just awe-inspiring at their level of complexity, but yet simplicity too. So from my perspective, as I see all of this consolidation happening, I'm going to tell you straight up here, I'm only looking for one simple thing. I'm looking for consolidation to happen, and then once I've identified consolidation to happen, I'm looking for expansion. All right? And if that expansion doesn't follow that consolidation, I'm probably not doing what I think I'm doing, or I'm probably in the wrong direction. And it really is that simple. Okay? So let's look at some of these previous dots here, just to show you the ideas that I'm talking about. Let's just rewind the day just a little bit here, all right? Because I know one of these are going to line up pretty well. All right, so this is the start of the day, and I'm just going to take the dots as they plot, all right? So first dot of the day, we see a dot right up there, right? But before we see that, I think it's important to understand the bars surrounding that dot and why that dot has formed the way that it has, okay? To understand that, we need to really understand the live or the real-time tool that we have going on here, and that is the EPA price bars, okay? The EPA price bars would have plotted out a little red line right down here, okay? Now, why would it plot out a little red line right there? Well, the reason being, and actually I might be able to show that to you in real time here, but I don't know how long it's going to take. So I'm just going to show it to you and let you take it for what it's worth so that you can understand this red dot. This red dot represents a 2-bar engulf of this green candle. All right, and I know that it's a good signal because of this. Because this red candle right here was an inside candle. It was inside this green candle, just to the left of it. Okay? When we have an inside candle, when the top of the candle and the bottom of the candle do not exceed the extremes of the previous candle or bar, this is consolidation. All right, so now we're just looking for consolidation to happen in our direction. And that's really why this red dot happened. Okay, so we've had consolidation, now we're looking for expansion to happen. And that's really how this dot came to be. All right, so let's look at the next dot. All right, now this one's even higher than that red dot. And the interesting part is we have smaller candles up here. Okay, now this red dot happened a little bit early, I would say. Okay, where did this red dot come from? Let's see if we have some active zones here. Okay, we don't have the active zones, so let's go into the dead zones. The dead zones, it happened from this consolidation over here to the left. Okay, so I would say that that was a little early, but it was really reacting from these two zones together, and we can kind of see price coming up to the second zone there, retesting this previous pivot, and then really pushing down from that area. Okay, so in my mind, this is a reaction to that level of consolidation over there. All right, now what I love to see is like the inside bar consolidation. All right, so out of this red bar is right here, and look at that inside green bar. So that tells me that we're really consolidating now, and now I just need to look for the expansion out of that area, and sure enough it pops to the downside. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? All right, cool. So that's the big key that shows me what's going on there. And if you ever see price reloading and popping from a dot where we've seen a previous like inside bar like that, it's just a very simple retest of that area of consolidation and then the expansion away from that area. Okay? So that's really what we're looking at here. All right, and I want to keep it that simple. Let's see, what else do we have here? I'm actually just going to identify, I like that concept, just identifying the inside bar, because I think it's really cool and it's really powerful. So up here at the top, guess what we had? That big red candle, and then we had the small green candle. Boom. We've identified consolidation. All right. Now you can wait for the breakout of it. Now, in this particular case, is this trend follow, or is this trend reversal, or is this counter trend? Well, this is counter trend. Now, my rule with counter trend is small stops, small targets. All right. So if you're going to take something like this, then you have to use small stops and small targets because it's counter trendy. All right. And then you can also see it start to range here as well. All right. So the market's starting to really consolidate. Now, is this, from our context chart, is this an important area that we actually really like? Well, no, it's really not. It just formed new resistance on us because it's done this for so long. Okay. But it's coming into this area, we don't really see it as anything that special right here. All right. So just realize that this really isn't a predefined area. When this dot popped up, that we would be thinking that this counter trend trade would be working. If anything, we want to be buying low and selling high, and identifying pullbacks to the downside so that we can pop it up to expect to see this type of area pop, okay, or get broken. That's what I want to be looking for. So let's just identify some of the inside bars here, and we'll see what happens after we identify the inside bar. Okay. So I'm just going to draw rectangles around these things just to make it a little bit simpler. I'm going to draw the rectangle on the extremes of the outside bar. Okay, so we have another big bar and we have a little small inside bar right here. Okay, going along, here's your outside bar, here's your inside bar right there. Okay, outside bar, inside bar right there. So you can see as we start to consolidate, this happens a whole lot more, you know. So I just think that's interesting. We have an outside bar, inside bar. And then look at, as we are even going, because this one's more on the extreme of where this previous high was, as soon as we break it, look at the force that it breaks with, you know. I think that's interesting. Technically, this bar, this whole pattern could get really small to where it was like this at one point. Does that make sense? So it's a really simple idea of understanding consolidation and then expansion. Now, this consolidation happened at the most recent extreme. It was a failure of price to break up here. So this was very, very interesting in correlation. You had a bar inside of a doji, a small doji, failing to break the most recent extreme. And we see expansion coming out of it. So that is a counter trend setup, but I think it's good enough to get a T1. You know, if your stop is just above those points right there, or maybe a couple ticks, you'd easily have gotten T1 in just a matter of a couple minutes. So that's how and why you see me getting so many pops when I enter, and I get my T1 so quick, is because I'm just doing this. And if it doesn't pop real quick like that, then you're probably not where you think you are. And that's why I tend to scratch on trades. So I hope this helps. I'm going to run through this time period with you guys. We're just going to look for the inside bars, okay, together. And then we're going to get into the afternoon session, and I think I'm going to have some of the mentors come in and help me. And we'll watch the afternoon session together. Okay?